Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you all are doing well today. My name is Ben Konruff. I'm an education director at the Wisconsin Technical College System, and I'll let my co-presenter introduce themselves.
Thank you for attending today. My name is Stancher from Mid-State Technical College, and I'm the Dean of Adult Education and Learning Resources.
So we want to start by extending a big sense of gratitude and thank you for joining in our session today. But also a big thank you to CoWAVE for providing us an opportunity to share Wisconsin's equity-informed approach to integrated education and training. As we're covering our content today, we ask that you please share any questions that you have within the chat. And at the end of our session, we will plan to address those questions. So during our presentation today, we are going to provide an overview of Wisconsin's guided career pathways model and how integrated education and training fits into the model. We're also going to hear from Mid-State Technical College about some of their local IET efforts. And finally, we will review some of the drivers for supporting equity within Wisconsin's IET work. So let's first start with just an overview of Wisconsin's Title II adult education program. So within Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Technical College System is the pass-through entity for federal funds under the Adult Education and Family Literacy Act. The Wisconsin Technical College System is a system of 16 public technical colleges administered by the state of Wisconsin. Our system offers more than 500 programs, awarding 2-year associate's degrees, liberal arts transfer degrees, 1- and 2-year technical diplomas, and short-term technical diplomas and certificates. We also provide training and technical assistance to Wisconsin's business and industry community, coordinate high school dual enrollment, and also serve as the WIOA Title II program for adult education programming. Annually, roughly $6 million from the adult education federal funding stream are awarded across a series of providers within Wisconsin. Funds are administered as grant awards, which are made through a competitive process that operates under a 4-year cycle. There are currently 23 funded adult education Title II providers within Wisconsin. That includes all of the 16 technical colleges in Wisconsin and 7 community-based organizations. These providers offer a diverse set of services that include adult education and literacy skill building, English language learning, re-entry services for justice-involved populations, workforce preparation services, and integrated education and training, which is the focus of the discussion today. Annually, over 13,000 individuals are served under Wisconsin's adult education program. Additionally, Wisconsin has been a national leader with strong educational and employment outcomes across our federal WIOA primary indicators of performance, like measurable skill gain and employment in the second quarter after exit. One of the drivers behind Wisconsin's adult education successes is the system's history of career pathways. And you can see a visual of what career pathways kind of looks like in Wisconsin. You can see there's multiple entry points and exit points between both the 2-year system, the 4-year system, apprenticeship, adult education, high school, and the labor market. The Wisconsin Technical College System structures its work, partnerships, and programs into our guided career pathways model, which creates an efficient customer-centered approach to education and training. These pathways are designed to meet an individual where they are and guide them through the learning and credentialing journey with the resources they need to arrive where they want to be. Building, promoting, and sustaining meaningful pathways requires intentional collaboration across all of our stakeholder partners that you can see on the screen, including the various industry sectors and employers across Wisconsin. So a prominent feature of Wisconsin's technical college career pathways is the development of embedded credentials. Career pathway embedded credentials are a post-secondary education service delivery model that purposely packages components of curriculum from a longer degree program, like an associate's degree, into short-term credentials. Each of these short-term credentials align with labor market demands and are also part of the required coursework in the longer degree program. The intention of the model is to allow students to seamlessly build their skills and advance their economic mobility while completing each component of the career pathway. One two-year college example, which you can see on the screen, includes the progression from a less than a one-year certified nursing assistant program to a one-year credential and licensed practical nursing, followed by an associate degree in nursing. After completing any credential within the career pathway, a student can exit the post-secondary system, enter the workforce for a job aligned with the completed credential, and can return to earn the next credential in the pathway, leading to career advancement and higher wages. Wisconsin employers, as you can imagine, play a vital role in the development of these career pathways. Each credential within a pathway is fully vetted through a labor market needs assessment and concept investigation. The career pathway development process includes the collection, analysis, and synthesis of college district employer feedback from focus groups or surveys, and also rigorous labor market analysis of occupational projections data. Our colleges also collaborate with district employers to design the curriculum within each of their career pathways. This important alignment step ensures that the curriculum is designed to provide students experience with occupation-specific technology and to build knowledge, skills, and abilities that are vital for employability upon graduation. Once a career pathway is fully implemented at a college, employers engage in the program modification process through program advisory committees to verify relevancy in relation to the pace of change in the industry and workplace. So over the last several years, the Wisconsin Technical College system and each of the 23 adult education Title II providers have explored and implemented adult education entry points to these embedded credential models by creating integrated education and training offerings. So we have this rich history and foundation of career pathways within our system. And now I'm going to explain what integrated education and training is and how it fits into our career pathways model. So IET, or Integrated Education and Training, was first coined with the passing of the federal legislation known as the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act in 2014. The concept really exudes what we already do so well within the Wisconsin Technical College system, which is connecting education to employment. Within an IET model, there are a series of key characteristics. An IET model brings together three instructional components that include adult education and literacy activities, workforce training, such as instruction within our WTCS credentials, and workforce preparation activities such as building digital literacy skills or strategies for self-management. These three components must come together and integrate and be offered both contextually and concurrently. When we say concurrently, what we mean is that they happen in tandem with one another, and contextually in the sense that the components are shaped for a specific occupation. So learning is provided in context. So through Wisconsin Technical College System IET, adult education and occupational training faculty bring their expertise to the table to really co-plan integrated lessons and to also co-deliver these lessons. This purposeful collaboration results in IET offerings that both meet a workforce need and connect learners to WTCS credentials. So there's many benefits to an IET model that are of value to both learners and the workforce. First, IET connects students directly to a career pathway and saves them valuable time. Rather than first starting in the adult education department to build skills, learners go directly into contextualized learning on a career pathway. Second, IET accelerates economic mobility. Learners can quickly build their skills through IET and obtain credentials with earnings value. Research has also suggested that participation in IET is positively associated with not only student outcomes, but also their beliefs that they will be successful in the classroom. And then finally, by creating another on-ramp to post-secondary credentials, IET provides employers with another source of skilled labor to meet their workforce needs. So going back to our Wisconsin embedded credential career pathway concept, an IET offering may be connected to the first credential in the nursing pathway, for instance. Specifically, adult education and literacy activities, as well as workforce preparation, are integrated into the nursing assistant technical diploma workforce training. So here we would see both adult education and occupational training faculty work together to create lessons that are both concurrent and contextualized to the nursing assistant field. Collectively, these efforts save students time by connecting them right to that post-secondary credential and also provide local employers with, again, another pipeline for workforce talent. So I'm now going to turn it over to Amber of Mid-State Technical College to discuss some local IET offerings at their college.
Thank you, Ben. So I want to share some specific examples that we have done at Mid-State to hopefully help you get some ideas of what would work in your area. Mid-State is relatively small in size when you look at the WTCS system in Wisconsin. Out of the 16 colleges, we are 13th in size, so tiny but mighty. About 75% of our students are Pell Grant eligible. I mention this because it demonstrates the financial hardships that many of our students are currently facing. Within our district is Adams County, which has the lowest credential attainment rate within the state. So when we think of IET development, we are focused on getting students onto a career pathway, getting a quick win that leads to a better paying job, and allows them to continue to improve their skills and advancing within their career field later on. So the first example that I will share is a culinary institute that we provided in partnership with Sand Valley Gulf Resort. When we developed this IET program, participants earned college level credits and were able to complete an internship at Sand Valley as their last course. Here are some benefits of working with an employer directly to develop an IET. This format increases the potential of a full cohort. Again, we are one of the smaller colleges with a large rural area. Some of the potential program participants fell under the following categories. Current employees of Sand Valley, so they were getting upskilled employees, and then also to attract new employees to Sand Valley Gulf Resort. It is nationally known, so it is a great opportunity for people in the culinary area to start off in their career and get exposure into culinary arts. Working directly with the employers also helps to break down barriers. We use the space offered on site for training, so the students really got used to the area, got comfortable with the employer, and then also knew where all the materials were. The employer also offered some benefits of housing, transportation, and additional resources like chef's jackets and knives. So that way they broke down the barriers that we would have for students that are coming out of the area. Again, with being rural, there could have been the potential drive that was preventing them from participating. Working directly with an employer and has benefits for program completion outcomes also. The internship led to the employment afterwards. So after the internship, the culinary arts program, they could go directly into the associate degree while also maintaining a job with Sand Valley. Through the IET and working with Sand Valley, our offerings and coursework provide relevancy. So some of the assignments that were linked to that program really did involve recipes that Sand Valley used within their restaurant, but then also for the foundational math aspect, which was part of the adult education component, we were able to do fractions that also involved the recipe and then also menu planning. So again, that adult ed foundational math support really linked up to what they were going to be doing on site. This example of an IET shows that it isn't always a linear path, but there are many on and off ramps for a career pathway due to the varying levels of academic that enter into the program, the adult education support allows program participants to stay on track and not spend a semester working on those foundational skills and then enrolling in a program. So for the short-term credentials, as Ben mentioned, they are all WTCS approved and already go through that process of knowing that they are in high demand fields. So for the short-term example, we have stainless steel welding, which is a 6-credit program. Students who graduate from the stainless steel program have the production line welder, stainless steel welder, TIG welding, pipeline welder, and welding repair. The benefits of a short-term credential, again, this approach increases the chance of a full cohort. Students can plan for an 8-week commitment without too many life events getting in the way. It is also a great motivator to know that in a short amount of time, there is potential for a higher paying career. This leads to the other benefit that is still a connection with the employers for the potential of employment upon completion and upskilling current workforce. Short-term credentials are approved by program advisory boards for each occupational area. The advisory boards are made up of local employers who provide feedback about the competencies that are needed within their company. Short-term credentials naturally break down barriers for students. From a financial standpoint, short-term credentials are eligible for WIOA funding to cover program costs, and they could potentially be financial aid eligible. Short-term credentials reduces the life happening. As you know, if working with students, life happens often and there's no stopping it. But if you have a shorter credential, it really lessens the potential of dropouts. The support of the adult education activities building up the foundational skills while also completing a program creates a short win for the students and builds the students' confidence for employment and continued education. Ben, if you want to go to the next slide. So developing IETs at Midstate, it is a financial investment. So developing an IET is really going to be focusing on the academic support the student needs. Due to the financial investment required, Midstate has taken the approach to target the courses and the content that would have the biggest impact. We go through an approval process for all of our WTCS credentials that demonstrate the employment need in the area. So the IET program that we develop are pathways to employment that is considered high demand for our region. For IETs, they do not require an HSCD or a GED to get into the IET program. And then oftentimes they can also use those credits that are in the IET to really build up the number of credits they need for that HSCD 506 program that is within our Wisconsin Technical College offerings through the HSCD, but also work on getting their GED and HSCD at the same time. All colleges within the WTCS have access to data using Tableau. This information will break it down to the course level completion rates, including grade, distribution, course delivery, the method, gender, race, ethnicity, age, and enrollment intensity. If there are courses with low completion rates, we go into a more of a deeper dive into the reasons why course completion might be lower in that particular course. We might look at test scores of a participant at time of enrollment, the structure of the course, the supporting materials used. We also review assessment data. All course competencies are aligned to a particular assessment within the course. We use the students' performance on those assessments to give us a better idea of where students are struggling. An example of this would be Microsoft Office. In the Excel portion of the course, it is designed in a way that students are coming in with foundational level of math concepts, means, medians, modes. After a deeper dive, it was determined that students need foundational math support to successfully complete the Excel portion of the course. The other component is faculty. Faculty know their courses and where students struggle. In my experience, they have also tried multiple ways to help students and then support and retain their students. When given the opportunity to help an adult education faculty member to get an adult education faculty member in the classroom with them and working together, they typically have concepts that they know additional foundational support is needed. When I say foundational support, I'm thinking the reading, the math, and the writing that faculty hope are coming in with that knowledge, but students might struggle and need a little additional support. Students that have completed the course already are a great source of information. An example of respiratory therapists in nursing, there's a lot of embedded math within the programs. Foundational math skills in fractions, decimals, and ratios and proportions are needed to perform dosage calculations. Foundational math skills are needed in machine tool and math with and accuracy with measurements are crucial for that success. And of course, as been mentioned, employer feedback is crucial to all of our programs. Employer feedback obtained at advisory meetings or other forms of communications is one of the best sources for what are the expectations of our graduates. In the culinary example, it was the employer that shared that foundational math skills is what they would like to see for newly hired employees.
Thank you, Amber. I just want to emphasize that Midstate's approach is so phenomenal in that there's multiple data sources and multiple stakeholders that are engaged to create their IET offerings. Amber described how she's using program success data like course completion rates and getting feedback from faculty, students, and employers, all to culminate and then inform the actual design and offering of an IET offering, which is truly amazing. So I thank you, Amber. I want to shift the conversation now to how our system has really rallied around IET and taken an equity-informed approach as we scale IET across our state. We truly believe that integrated education and training is a lever to addressing Wisconsin's equity imperative. Within Wisconsin, we have racialized disparities in high school credential attainment rates and poverty rates, and you can see some of that data represented in the bar chart on the screen. Across the state, we have over 270,000 adults who are without a high school credential and over 129,000 adults who do not speak English well or at all. So our Wisconsin Adult Education Program is imperative here because it provides direct services in these areas across a very diverse student body. So for example, last year in the Adult Education Program, 20% of our learners identified as single parents, over 60% as students of color, and 33% or a third as English language learners. This really emphasizes the importance of holistic student supports that are integrated within IET offerings. So through these intentional IET connected to workforce needs, in Wisconsin, we believe that we can build bridges to economic mobility for the diverse student body in our adult education program, which in turn should assist in addressing some of the inequities that we see in Wisconsin. So the equity-informed approach we've taken in IET is also aligned with other WTCS efforts to extend equity in access and success. Back in 2018, our system created a system-wide equity report that's publicly facing to acknowledge and spotlight the existence of equity gaps and also to identify strategies to close equity gaps. Then our 2021 equity report will be released within just this next week as a follow-up to our first report. Our system, with the support of each of our 16 technical colleges, also established the WTCS Commitment to Progress to demonstrate system-wide efforts and a commitment to ending systemic racism through a focus on educational equity. Finally, within Wisconsin, our collective post-secondary partners have established a credential attainment rate goal known as Wisconsin 60 Forward. This goal was set in collaboration with the Lumina Foundation, and it's really intended to get our Wisconsinites' credentials and address our Wisconsin workforce shortages. The goal specifically is that by 2027, 60% of the population aged 25 to 64 will have a post-secondary credential. So to reach this goal, we know that we need to address inequities in access and success in post-secondary education and believe that the scaling of IET is imperative to reaching our goal. So to align and support this vision and statewide commitment to post-secondary access and success, the Wisconsin Adult Education Program prioritizes equity levers in 4 main areas to help us equitably scale and extend access to IET offerings. These 4 levers or drivers include data and research, policy, fiscal levers, and finally, professional development for our providers. So our first IET equity driver is really our data and research. And you saw some of the ways in which Mid-State Technical College is leveraging some of the data that we make available to all of our technical colleges. We specifically used data, though, in the context of IET to spotlight a need to not only scale IET in our state, but also ensure equitable participation in IET. So during the 2018-19 program year, our office conducted statewide research to understand how participation in IET related to educational outcomes. We found that students in IET had stronger literacy skill building outcomes, as well as measurable skill gain outcomes. And these findings really mirrored what we see in the existing research literature on contextualized learning models. Additionally, through this research, we found that students of color were significantly underrepresented in IET opportunities. So as you can see presented on the table on the screen, 64% of our adult education program identified as a student of color, yet 49% of the population participating in IET identified as a student of color. So these data points suggested to us an underrepresentation by 15 percentage points. So most notable, though, was the underrepresentation of Hispanic and Latinx populations within our IET offerings. So kind of going back to the data that I shared before on the importance of addressing equity in Wisconsin as it relates to poverty rates and high school credential attainment rates, seeing these disparities in participation are even more telling and of more importance within Wisconsin. So ultimately, the research was conducted was shared within a written action research brief that was presented to our Wisconsin providers. We also shared it with our WIOA partners as we talked about integrated education and training and the system office staff to build awareness of not only the value of IET, but also the need to address racial disproportionality in participation. So the second IET equity driver that we've leveraged is ongoing professional development. So through our data and research, we spotlighted that IET builds momentum for students, and also that there is a need to address inequities in participation. Over the last 3 years, a significant amount of attention has been given to supporting Wisconsin providers in these efforts at the system office. Statewide trainings have included strategies for creating IET, getting students into IET offerings through recruitment strategies. Amber had mentioned one of those strategies earlier with making direct connections with employers and also providing supports to ensure all students are successful during participation. So our system has also curated a repository of resources that are available through our Innovative Practices webpage that includes practices to achieve equity in IET, such as recruitment strategies and removing barriers to access, like cost of instruction for students. Additionally, we have spotlighted programs like Mid-State Technical College who have really infused innovation in their IET offerings that really break down walls to IET participation. And then finally, the system provides ongoing technical assistance to providers who are early in their IET development efforts to support the successful creation and implementation of IET. So not only are we emphasizing equity within ensuring that there's equitable representation or participation within IET, but we're treating all of our providers with equity by providing them the technical assistance and support that they need to successfully offer IET locally. So the third equity driver in Wisconsin is supportive policy. So our system developed the Wisconsin Integrated Education and Training Planning Forum to support sustained conversations on IET development with Wisconsin's adult education providers. As providers are developing IET offerings, they're instructed to complete the planning form, document and share it with the system office for discussion. The planning tool prompts providers to really reflect upon some of the central components or features of IET, not only at the federal level, but also that we've prioritized within Wisconsin. So this includes things like recruitment activities to ensure diverse representation in the program, connecting the IET to short-term credentials, as Amber had mentioned earlier, so students can quickly build their skills and enter the workforce for a family-sustaining job. And then also external partner collaboration to build a comprehensive set of supports for learners engaged in IET. And you heard firsthand an example of that from Mid-State Technical College and how they've built employer-based partnerships that have benefited students within IET offerings in unique and amazing ways. The submitted planning tools are then reviewed in a team-based format at the system office to monitor consistency of the IET offering with the federal IET guidelines, and to also ensure that the IET offering aligns with Wisconsin's specific priorities. Each of the completed planning tools that meet these expectations are then curated and shared with Wisconsin providers to support best practice sharing. So collectively, hundreds of learners have engaged each year in Wisconsin's IET offerings across a diverse set of occupational areas. Amber shared some of these earlier, but these also include early education, respiratory therapy, EMT, medical assistant, transportation, and agriculture, to name a few. So there's a very diverse set of IET offerings that are available across all of our funded providers within Wisconsin. So the fourth equity driver in Wisconsin IET is the use of fiscal levers. So shortly after we conducted our data analysis and research on Wisconsin IET that I shared earlier, we collectively reviewed these findings and connected research to practice. In our most recent adult education grant competition, we introduced the Innovation in Integrated Education and Training grant category to expand access to IET. So we really took those research findings that identified that IET is a momentum building force for student success, and also noted that there was that underrepresentation in IET, and we created a grant category to not only extend access, but to address some of those inequities. So a total of $150,000 is allocated annually to support these expansion efforts. Requirements of the grant application include connecting the proposed IET offering to hot jobs identified by the local workforce development board. So hot jobs are those jobs that have wages above the state median and have a high number of annual openings within Wisconsin. And as our applicants were completing their application, they worked specifically with their local workforce development board and the hot jobs in their region. Also included in the application were specific efforts to encourage diverse student representation in IET and embedding holistic student supports to ensure learner success. So these criteria and others through this competitive grant process were weighted in a scoring process to finalize the list of funded providers in the category. So collectively, the efforts of our system and providers have yielded positive results. With over 950,000 learners participating in IET last year alone, we have seen a narrowing of equity gaps in IET participation that we identified back in 2018-19. So during the 2020-21 program year, we found that 68% of the adult education population identified as a student of color. When we look at IET participation, we find that 66% of IET learners identify as a student of color. Further, the Hispanic or Latinx population is proportionately represented in IET participation now. So just over these last 3 to 4 years, we've seen a narrowing of some of the equity gaps that we saw in IET participation within Wisconsin. This is drastically different from the 15% equity gap we saw 3 years ago earlier, and really is a testament to the amazing work of our providers like Mid-State Technical College, and also the students that are engaged in these IET offerings. So what's next in Wisconsin? Ultimately, we want to maintain our focus and momentum. We want to ensure that we're serving the most in need populations within Wisconsin and provide them an opportunity to advance their economic mobility through IET. To support these efforts, the WTCS is administering a 2-year, $2.25 million state general purpose revenue grant that is currently under competition. The focus of the grant is to create new IET offerings and expand access to IET offerings to Wisconsinites. Through this, we're certain that we will be able to build bridges out of poverty and provide the Wisconsin workforce with skilled labor to meet their most pressing workforce needs. All right, so that concludes our presentation. If folks have any questions, you can put those in the chat.
And Ben, Laura did have a question about trying to get enough students for cohorts, especially in the serve safe area, and just how to get a cohort started for an IET. So from my end, because we are smaller and we do struggle with getting full cohorts, is providing an endpoint that is relevant. So for the culinary arts example, we had that employer connection right after the institute was over and ended with an internship. We are doing a welding one over the summer, which we have really partnered with what they call SHWMA, because we love our acronyms in education. So I'm going to read what it means. The Central Wisconsin Manufacturing Alliance. So again, having that direct connection with employers afterwards. And then also we're looking into an admin professional one, and we're doing that in the May, June area, again, just because there's an employer connection that's occurring right after that. So the only advice that I would have would be really connecting it with something upon completion so they see why it's important to go through that cohort base.
Yeah, something I would also add to that, we have a provider who's currently working with a jail in the area to serve justice-involved populations. And they're offering, in collaboration with the correctional facility, an IET that results in the Serve Safe certification. And it also, through advanced standing and credit for prior learning, I believe, then translates to post-secondary credit within a recognized culinary post-secondary credential offered at the institution.
And then Tracy asked, are the students required to have an HSD before receiving employment? And really that on our end depended on the employer. So we did try to develop our IETs so that our GED, HSCD students could also participate, and using that as a way of working on both at the same time. You know, we have the IET initiative going on through Wisconsin right now, but we also are focusing on the ability to benefit. So if students are interested in getting their GED, HSCD at the same time, working on it together, so that way they're not losing progress and just doing the GED, HSCD, and then a program, but that way they're graduating with hopefully both credentials at the same time.
Yeah, and I just want to plug for Wisconsin. We were the first state to be recognized and awarded the option for the state-approved ability to benefit. option, which is just opening doors for new students to build their skills and get on a post-secondary pathway towards employment. All right, any other questions from folks on the line? Feel free to type them in the chat.
I think that's all we had.
That's it. Well, we want to thank you again for your time and listening in on our equity-informed approach to IET. A big thanks to Amber and the amazing work that Midstate Technical College does. And thank you to COAID for, again, providing us a platform to share this information.
Oh, we got one more. I lied. Another question. Do students receive a stipend?
Yeah, so I think you might be referring to maybe the grant opportunity, I'm assuming. What the grant allows is to cover the cost of instruction. So it offsets the cost of instruction for students to engage in the IET. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Amber.
In our area, there's other grants that the Culinary Institute, the contract was already through a grant that Sand Valley had received. So it wasn't through Midstate that the grant occurred, but through Sand Valley itself. But for our manufacturing ones, we also went through WIOA Title I funding to do some of that tuition reimbursement pieces. So we really are trying to break down the financial barrier for participating in the IETs. Does that help, Tracy?
Mission accomplished.
Woohoo!
All right, well, if there's no other questions, again, thank you, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the conference.
Thank you and have a great day.
Bye-bye.